Ambassador, is the Russian Federation preparing to invade Ukraine?
Well, we have given this answer many times. It is not in our intention in the current situation, of course. That is all what I can say for the moment.
Well, the Deputy Foreign Minister in Vienna today says his country will need to take unspecified necessary measures if Russia's demands are not met. What does that mean?
That is true, because as our colleagues has already explained at length, that NATO enlargement continues to put in danger European security. On the one hand, it is very dangerous for Russia. On the other hand, it turns upside down the whole European security, the fundamental obligations that has been signed by all leaders of the European states, including the United States and Canada, by the way, starting in 1975, then in 1990, then in 1999, about indivisibility of security, about the inextricable security of each state is inextricably linked to the security of the other state, and all of this has been suddenly turned down by the NATO enlargement.
But what does unspecified necessary measures mean?
Okay, I cannot talk about this in the open air. I can just imagine. I am an ambassador, I'm not a military man, but I can imagine that our military people, they are preparing different variants of answering to this danger.
The Polish Foreign Minister says there is the greatest risk of war in the OSCE region in 30 years. Is he right?
The war has happened on the initiative of NATO against Yugoslavia in '99.
But it's you that has the standing army of 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border, so it's a valid question. That is the army that people are looking at.
It is very far from this size. It is not the army. Yes, well, the answer is that this is not the army in the first place. It is not standing on the border. It is far from the border. And of course, we would like that Ukraine will come back to implementation of Minsk agreement. This is the most important point. It does not want to do this. And we are not, and we expect that countries in Europe will push Ukraine not for aggression against Russia or aggression against Donetsk Republic, but they will force Ukraine to implement Minsk agreements. So this is our goal.
But you set down some demands which NATO clearly can't meet when it comes to membership. And as you say, if we're going to keep continuing to talk about the Minsk agreement, that means that the two sides need to meet. And what Mr. Ryabkov has said today is, I do not see any reason to sit down again to start these same discussions.
Well, he is right, because answers what we have heard during a meeting between a Russian and American delegation, and yesterday during a Russian NATO Council, they are not satisfactory. There were certain proposals that has been done by NATO. Let us discuss these, and these. And probably it is good in a different situation, and we will be prepared to discuss arms control. We, of course, will be prepared to discuss moratorium on the medium-range and medium-range missiles stationed in Europe. All these important things. But if we will engage into this discussion, it will take years, of course. And it does not answer our major concern, a concern of principle, because it is exactly enlargement of NATO is endangering now situation in Europe, and we will need a legal, strictly cut guarantees that it is not going to happen.
But if he's good to his word and he is walking away from the table, which is what he says in black and white, I do not see any reason to sit down again and discuss the same issues. We are heading, are we not, towards a Cold War position?
In a sort of, first of all, I do believe that assessment is going on right now in Moscow. I am not in a position to comment on the outcome of talks over there in Geneva and in Brussels. The proper statements and assessments will be given in due course, I guess, pretty soon, of course. On the other hand, of course, about the dialogue, many countries has mentioned necessity of a dialogue. We shall see how this dialogue may influence the current situation.
The ball is...
Let me finish, please.
Yeah.
Diplomacy is always much better than the war.
A lot of people would agree with that. The Russian spokesman Dmitry Peskov, you say it's being discussed in Moscow today, he says a complete rupture in US-Russian relations will materialize if sanctions are adopted.
Yes, I see that this is a strong position, and it has been pronounced. I think this has been pronounced during the last conversation between American President and President Putin.
Mm. But the door is open because the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, he did say yesterday, there's a lot of things that we can discuss. So the ball is very much in Moscow's court now.
In the beginning of our dialogue, I have said that things that has been raised by Mr. Stoltenberg, Secretary General of NATO, they are being discussed for a number of years without a result, without an outcome. On arms control, on INF moratorium, on use of nuclear weapons, but we forgot how to discuss principles. And I would like just to return to the principles of European architecture. So European architecture, this is not a Washington Treaty at all. It is a Washington Treaty signed by a group of states. And they are saying that security is indivisible in this group. And this is not correct, because Europe is much wider. And this is much more serious space than that. It includes Russia. It includes other states of Caucasus, part of Central Asia, by the way.
Well, it does, but if I was a Prime Minister sitting in Poland or Estonia or Lithuania, and I saw 100,000 troops on the border of Ukraine, I think I'd probably want to belong to a defence alliance.
You know how many Polish troops and officers are now on the border between Belarus and Poland? They are trying to fight immigrants that are trying. It's about 25,000.
And?
So what are they doing here over there?
But it's their country, it's their sovereign territory.
Or they need so many troops over there just to defend against immigrants that are trying to go to Europe. So this is not really funny.
Let me pick up this issue of principles, because I'm really interested in this. Are you saying then that Ukraine as a sovereign country is not allowed to make a decision as any other sovereign country would be allowed to make on EU membership or on NATO membership?
Right. It is an interesting question, but one should look into the obligations that has taken. This issue has been exactly resolved in the Istanbul Charter on European Security. It is saying exactly what you have said, but the second part of this formulation, that the security of each state is inextricably linked to the security of the others, and one making a decision about entering into alliances with the other states has to take into account that this step will not be detrimental to the security of all others.
So what about Finland? What about Sweden, if they join NATO?
I do believe that, and we value very highly the status of neutrality that is taken by now of Finland and Sweden. It is much more complicated than neutrality, but it is right.
But you'll be aware there is a debate now in Finland. There is a debate in Finland about NATO membership because Russia has put 100,000 troops on that border.
But these debates in Finland and Sweden are going on for about 20 years, the whole time when enlargement is going on. And they're not doing that because they value those status. And Finland, this is a part and parcel of these fundamental principles, because Helsinki Final Act has been signed in Finland. And we do believe that next session, or that will commemorate now how many years it will be 40 years of Helsinki Final Act will be commemorated in Helsinki itself. So the value of these European principles on which European architecture is being based.
Let me turn to energy. The head of the IEA, International Energy Agency, today directly blamed Russia for the record energy prices that we're seeing in Europe. And he says that Gazprom has cut 25% of gas supply to Europe just as prices are surging.
Well, I'm not very good in prices and supplying of gas, to believe me, but what I do understand that you cannot put gas just on the shelves in the market. There should be orders for gas. When orders are being given and provided and demand is existing, then supplies of gas are going on, not vice versa.
So
what we are saying is
Russia
that
is not using gas for leverage, it's not using it as a political weapon.
We have said many times to people in the European Commission and in the European government that the market situation is very detrimental for gas, that we need long-term orders for gas, so we need to work on extraction of gas and supply of gas and building pipelines. Market situation, so this has come to very high.
But there are
prices.
millions of people across Europe who are now facing a cost of living crisis.
Okay, where is American liquid gas now?
But is Russia going to play its part in easing the prices?
I think that we will, provided that conditions will be there. But as you know...
Are you talking specifically about orders, or are you talking about security?
Well, you're trying to mix security and gas and the market. It is, please do not put it in one basket. Not at all. Then we will go too far about human rights situation, about climate, of course, about culture.
But what I'm saying is the current security situation and the row over Ukraine, that is not affecting the supply of energy.
It has nothing to do with that. We are talking exactly about one subject, enlargement of NATO. This is important, and it has come close to our borders, and we see that a striking weapon can be put on our borders, and we will have to turn our economical means to counter this threat, which is not at all in our interest.
Okay. Liz Truss, the new foreign secretary here, has voiced the idea of going to Moscow next month. Have you talked about this with her?
No, we have seen it, we have learned it from the newspapers.
Would she be welcome?
I do not know. Well, first of all, we have to see an official request for that.
So there's no invitation?
You mean, did we invited Liz Truss to Moscow? Well, I have no strict answer because, I talked to Moscow and we have seen that there is no conversation about this so far. She has been appointed. She had now 2 conversations with Minister Lavrov in different places in the margin of multilateral meetings. So we will see. It depends, of course, what she would like to discuss over there. But I do, in principle, I do not see any objection.
Mr. Ambassador, lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the conversation.